So Square Enix sent me a copy of NieR Replicant, and I played it for the first time ever. This game kinda broke me, and I think hugely responsible for this is the music. And as a music producer today, I want to talk about some of my favorite tracks in the game and tell you why I think they're very cool. This video is sponsored by Square Enix, by the way. Thank you guys for sending me a copy. Now, there might be some light spoilers in this video, but I'm gonna try to be as spoiler-free as possible. Let's start from this track. Absolute banger. It's so beautiful, even just in these first few seconds like this, because it gets you straight in the vibe, you know? It's so cool. The track is made in such a way to make you understand the entire track in the first few seconds. In fact, it starts with this chord progression on guitar that already contains the main melody, like you hear the track starting like this, and then Amy Evans is leading the melody in the second part, but it's a melody you already heard without even knowing it. So the track is kind of like a pop song. It kind of teaches you how to interpret it while you listen to it without you even realizing it. And also it's very compelling, not only for Amy's vocals, which are freaking amazing. It's so, like, did you notice like the dialogue that she has with the guitar? And then as soon as she's like resting, the guitar does ba da 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 ba ba. So it's like it takes like the opposite approach from like Zelda Breath of the Wild, where you just have some subtle piano notes and a lot of silence. Here there's no silence allowed. We can hear that especially in the drums underneath, which are playing like a 3/4 rhythm, like 1 2 3 1 2 3. You have this big grand cassa. They added some shakers to even make the rhythm more interesting. And then we have some bongos. And then to add an even more nomadic vibe, they added some tambourine. What I love the most is the way it ends. You know, it does this at the end. You know, you have this sort of like big reverse cymbal coming in, and then you have this beautiful sort of like magical additional percussion. And that moment right there, that break in the percussion coincides with the Amy's vocals kicking in for the first time. So this moment kind of feels like you just came out of a narrow path out into the open northern plains, and now you see the mountains and the sun all like appearing in your vision, and you're like, whoa, this game looks so beautiful and colorful, which is the first impression I had. So it's a very powerful track, I would say. Another track I loved a lot is one that appeared also in NieR Automata. It's called Song of the Ancients. This is the Devil version. And it's, again, pretty amazing. This beautiful progression and the beautiful performance from Amy is just wow. Now, Amy Evans is not the only singer in this game, by the way. There's also Saki Nakae. And honestly, I don't know which tracks are the ones sung by Saki and which ones are by Amy. And I say this because Song of the Ancients has like two versions. There's the Devil version, which is this one with the acoustic guitar, which feels like more like folk music, acoustic music. And then there's the Popola version, which is more electronic. There's also a version of this track where Popola and Devil are singing together. It's called Song of the Ancients, Fate. And this one is probably my favorite, not only because we hear them sing together, but also because of like how dense it is. This track, if I'm not wrong, is playing at 128 BPMs, which is the usual tempo for electronic dance music. And it straight away made me think, hey, what would this sound like if we put some bass over it? Once again, I love the implementation of this track in the game, because when you hear the Popola version, there's a reason for that. When you just hear the Devil version, there's a reason. When you hear the Popola and Devil together version, there's a different reason that it's very affecting at making you feel stuff, let's just say. And another track that creates a lot of feels is a fan favorite called Kainé Salvation. So beautiful. This track plays in the certain cutscenes with Kainé, who's this character who is very, rough, and is very, like, the last thing you will think about when you see this character is, like, gentle. So you're like, why is her theme so gentle? Like this, It's a very beautiful contrast with her appearance and her character and demeanor. And the beautiful thing about NieR Replicant's music is that this game has multiple endings, and every time you go through it in an additional run, you discover more things about the characters. And the music in general has many different layers. So with Kainé, you just hear it the first time, you're like, oh, this is a nice theme, but it's kind of weird. The second time, you hear it and you probably start to cry. It's very effective, I'm just saying. And there's a reason for it, by the way, which is heard right now. Now. That's so beautiful. That's amazing. So there's a reason why, well, this sounds like so emotional. First, again, Emi's vocals are so great. She's so good. Like the lips she does. I love that. Like I love, it's so cool. And this whole soundtrack is sang in this invented language that Emi came up with. And I think the reason for it is they wanted, like the composers, Keiichi, Okabe, and the Monaka team, which is like the composers behind this game. It's not only Keiichi Okabe, it's like his whole team, the Monaka team studio. They wanted a soundtrack that had a lot of humanity, and the way to bring humanity in a soundtrack is to actually add human voice. Now, when you add human voice to a song, especially if they're singing spoken words, that adds a lot of emotion and humanity and relatability to a soundtrack. However, there's a reason why video games usually don't use lots of songs with vocals. It's because they can get in the way of the dialogue. Because when you listen to music with words, you're listening to the words, and then if someone speaks on top of it, it's hard to, either pay attention to the music or pay attention to the dialogue. You usually have to make a choice. You cannot do both. So what they did here is create this language that doesn't really have any meaning because the words are invented, but that still feels like someone is talking. So when you listen to a dialogue in NieR Replicant and you have this music with invented words, your brain is automatically gonna interpret those invented words as music and is gonna just listen to the words in the dialogue. But at the same time, you're also gonna have the impact of having like spoken word music. So that's genius in a way. Like they're able to use the power of spoken word in music while not distracting you from what's happening. Another plus of using invented language is that she can use whatever phonetical sounds she wants to present the emotions she wants to present. This is a bit more tricky if you have to use certain words, like you have to make sense. I suppose that's why most indie music has lyrics that don't make sense at all, because they prefer to follow the musicality of the words rather than the meaning. And that's what Emi Evans can do here, because no one knows what this language means, right? So she can use whatever words she wants, just for the purpose of music. And an example is here. Those words sounds very emotional in the way their phonetics work. And yeah, another thing I love a lot about this is the way she's singing. You can hear her voice is kind of like trembling, and that sort of tremble is called vibrato. Emi uses vibrato quite a lot in specific moments like here. To me, it makes it sound that's the heart of Kainé, which is trembling all the freaking time. That's the vibe that I got when listening to this for the first time. The thing I love the most about this track specifically is that actually it tells the whole story of Kainé with music. So when you hear something like this, you just think, oh, piano sad, music sad, orchestra sad, and it do be sad. But actually, the reason why this sounds so tragic is found when you put together all the notes that are used at any given moment and the way the notes change throughout the song. That is called harmony, and this is what the harmony of this track sounds like. You can sing along. This first part makes you feel like there's an immense sadness and you cannot get free of it, you know? It just permeates every part of your being. And then what just happened here? Wait a second, we were sad for the whole moment and it was kind of slow, but then here it kind of picks up the pace and it becomes kind of hopeful, you know? Once again, this is the combination of all the notes that are playing in those moments in the song. And then after that, you have this. Now this feels warm. You don't feel so sad anymore. You almost feel like happy. You're like, what's happening? It was like the embrace of someone that you love. And then there's this. And now it's like, hey. That was an interesting journey, wasn't it? Because now we're back to being sad in a way. Any melody on top of this harmony would sound sad. And if you need some evidence for that, you should look no further from the latest NieR raid in Final Fantasy XIV, where the Final Fantasy melody, being a very normally uplifting melody, appeared underneath Kainé Salvation with Drakengard's bell sounds. And it sounds like this. Okay, let's go back to things that everybody can understand. I don't know if you guys noticed, but there's a moment where, you know, I lost it because I was playing the game. There's an additional boss fight they added, and there's a new soundtrack that they wrote for it. This right here. I mean, okay, listen. This moment right here was so freaking meta because essentially Square Enix went, hey, have you tried the expanded free trial of our critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV? You can now play through the entirety of Realm Reborn, get all the way to Heavensward until level 60, because this melody right here, come on! I mean, who are you guys kidding? This is a Final Fantasy XIV reference in NieR, and we also have NieR references in Final Fantasy XIV. These games are now intertwined, and by the way, you can really try Final Fantasy XIV up to Heavensward at level 60. I definitely recommend the game because it's one of the best Final Fantasy ever made. But let's go back to NieR, because even though this is a Square Enix sponsored video, we're talking about NieR today, right? The other track I want to talk about, it hit hard. It's Emil's theme. Emil is one of the main characters in this game. And this is one of his themes. And it hits very hard because pretty much all of the themes that are sang in this game are, again, usually are sang by, you know, a grown woman. Amy Evans, Saki Nakae. But in this track, what we hear is, I think, a little boy. And it hits different because you don't, this is the only track sang by this boy. And boy choir in general in orchestral music is used to represent a certain like innocence, a certain purity, and also they can go very high with the way they sing. So, you know, they can sound very emotional. Now, in this case, the song is very tragic, also because like the strings like that kick in and pretty much feel like waves of pain that come and go when you lose something that's very dear to you or someone that's very dear to you. That's how it is for pain, for humans. You know, you feel it and then it's gone and then you think you're over it, but no, it comes back and then it's gone. And it's like waves, right? And I feel that these strings that come and go, you know, they cannot represent that sense of pain and grief for Emil, which is very fitting for his character. And there's a moment though where it gets a bit more intense, which is this. Wow. Wow. Like, now the reason why I love this part so much is called voice leading, but rather than explain it to you with music theory terms, I'm just gonna show you. Let's listen back to this track, and I'm gonna show you how many melodies are actually playing at the same time. There's the boy melody, it sounds like... We know this one, right? Beautiful leap from G to E. I love this, like it sounds like he's like leaping high, reaching for something that he cannot reach. So then he goes back to G. That's kind of what I feel about this melody. But again, voice leading. So that's the first melody that we heard. There's this melody that plays at the same time on woodwind instruments. Then there's a melody that plays like on a cello. That was beautiful. And then there's also like a higher string melody. And when you put them all together, you get the piece. Each one is adding a layer of emotion, a voice inside Emil's head. One might be hope, and at the same time you have sadness, at the same time you have grief, at the same time you have love for your friends, at the same time maybe you have something to miss, like all these voices brought together with voice leading. And it's a very beautiful way to represent the complexity of one of the best fictional characters I've ever seen. And yeah, like, again, this is just the freaking music of the game, but when you hear this, coupled with the cutscenes when you're playing the game, it's gonna destroy you. It's just gonna... oh god. I really recommend anyone to play this game because it's a gem. If you do play it, I recommend to go through all the endings. Thank you Square for making this game and for sending me a copy for review. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and now I'm gonna go play some more. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.